Morning in the kitchen was unusually still. Sunlight slipped through the curtains, spilling across a glass of fresh milk. The smell was off, faintly metallic, leaving a strange tingle on her tongue. Beneath the glass, a spill had soaked into a stack of papers. She dabbed at it, and the words bled through. Durable power of attorney. Her hand froze. A lifetime as an accountant had taught her the look of these documents, multiple signature lines, dense fine print, every clause hiding another trap. Insurance paperwork was never this complicated. Sophia swept in, her perfume sharp as a needle. Just insurance forms, Mom. Sign quickly so I can send them off. David followed, forcing a smile. Go ahead and sign, Mom. It'll make it easier for us to cover your hospital bills. Cover for me. She echoed in her head, unsettled. If this was really for her sake, why was the paper hidden under a glass of milk? She sipped. The strange taste made her pause. Setting the glass down, she murmured, maybe later, I'm a little tired. Sophia glanced at her watch, lips pressed thin. David averted his gaze, eyes flickering with a desperation she'd never seen before, like a man standing at the edge of a cliff. Outside, the yard was still damp with morning mist. Years ago, at this same table, her son had taken her hand after graduation and promised, I'll take care of you for the rest of my life. That promise now dropped back into her chest like a stone, heavy and cold. Night settled over the house. The air conditioner hummed steady, broken only by the scrape of tree branches against the window. She lay on her side, sleep impossible, not from the dull ache in her chest, but from that stack of papers sitting in the kitchen like a boulder in the middle of the floor. Then came the sound of careful footsteps in the hall, pausing in the living room. Sophia's voice, low and controlled. The beneficiary changes are done. The TOD and POD are all set. Now we just wait. David's reply was hoarse, broken by swallowed breaths. I'm cornered, Sophia. This doesn't go through. I'm finished. She held her breath. Beneficiary changes. Transfer on death. Payable on death. None of it was foreign to a woman who had spent decades reviewing bank files. They were ways to arrange money for the day someone was gone. But here they struck like a knife against a plate, hard, cold, unmistakable. They were talking about her money, her house, her life, without a word about her illness, her exhaustion, her. She clenched the blanket until her knuckles whitened, heart thudding off rhythm, not just from fear but from a pain that cut to the bone. Her son, the boy she once trusted as her only shelter, spoke with the voice of a man strangled by debt. And her daughter-in-law recited the plan as calmly as a grocery list. The wall clock ticked, each second slipping away like grains of sand through her fingers. Darkness thickened, pressing over her face. A thought flared, sharp and unbearable. Is this even my home anymore? She shut her eyes, forcing her breath into slow, shallow counts. A chill crept through her, as though a door had been cracked open to let the night air pour in. In the kitchen, the spilled milk must have dried to a warped stain across the paper. The empty signature boxes waited, silent snares ready to spring. She pulled the blanket tight, ears straining toward the murmur seeping from the living room, soft, but enough to tell her one thing. Something inside this house had already cracked. And from that crack the darkness was spreading, room by room, corner by corner. That evening, Sophia brought out a tray of pills. The blister pack gleamed a different color than what she usually took. The woman looked up. These look different. Why don't they match the ones before? Sophia didn't meet her eyes, just shrugged. Same active ingredient, different brand. The pharmacist switched lots. Don't worry about it, Mom. Her voice snapped shut like a door. The woman lifted a pill, sniffed. There was a bitter, chemical tang on her fingertips. The old reflex stirred. Suspicion. Back when she was an accountant, a single off number meant she'd audit the whole ledger. But here, under her daughter-in-law's cool stare, she felt out of place, like an uninvited guest in her own home. She swallowed the pill, yet the numb tingle lingered on her tongue. The next morning she remembered a cardiology appointment. She opened MyChart on her phone and scrolled slowly. Appointments was lit in red. Cancelled. She frowned. Why was it cancelled? I'm supposed to be checked today. Sophia walked by with an iPad, eyes on the screen. I rescheduled it next week. Busy day, so I moved it. No big deal. Rescheduled. Or cancelled. She wanted to press but caught Sophia's quick, flat look and the words died in her throat. Since moving in, she always felt like a schedule that had to be adjusted to suit everyone else. Doctor visits, grocery runs, even reading the morning paper had to be just enough, never in the way. One afternoon, passing the hallway, she heard Sophia's voice from the office, soft but precise. Don't let her go to the doctor so often. It's a waste of effort. The words snapped like a whip. The door was ajar. Sophia's shadow cut across the wall, standing straight with a phone in hand. The woman stopped, heart pounding. David's footsteps sounded briefly from the kitchen below, but he didn't come up. Only Sophia's voice remained, smooth as a tightening cord. Let me handle it. Don't let her wander around. The woman stepped back, forced her breathing to even out. It felt like the whole house had turned to face her, watching. A few days later at the clinic, the doctor glanced at the lab results and looked up. Your heart medication levels are a little low. Have you missed any doses? She shook her head. She took them faithfully. The doctor jotted a note, mildly surprised. On the ride home, she sat in the back seat clutching her purse. Sophia drove in silence. David flicked at his phone. No one asked how she felt. Trees blurred past the window. In her head, only one question beat like a drum. If I'm taking everything, why are the results wrong? The answer flashed cold across her skin. Someone had switched the meds. That night she sat by the window, the curtain trembling in a light draft. Her hand shook around a cup of tea. Her eyes dropped to the pill organizer lined up on the table. The warm lamplight caught the new blisters label and bounced it back at her. Herbal support. She swallowed hard. A whisper in her head refused to quiet. They don't want me well. They want me convenient. The thought slipped out as a murmur, small but heavy enough to seal the air in the room. That afternoon, with sunlight slanting through the dining room window, Sophia walked in carrying a thick stack of papers in a blue plastic folder labeled Estate Packet. The woman looked up and saw bold headings peeking from the edges. HIPAA release, durable power of attorney will draft. Her pulse dipped. Sophia set the packet on the table, voice calm but final. Insurance and hospital forms, all routine. Mom, if you sign a few spots, it'll make paying the bills smoother. David came in behind her, hands in his pockets, eyes down. Go ahead and sign, Mom. It'll help us handle things. She pulled the packet closer. Old instincts kicked and count the signature blocks, scan the footnotes, read every section. Phrases slipped past her eyes. Broad authority, change of beneficiary, transfer of control. This wasn't simple insurance paperwork. This was the key to the vault of her life. She opened her mouth to question it, but Sophia had already clicked a pen and placed it in her hand. You just sign. I'll submit the rest. I've arranged for a notary to come here so you don't have to go anywhere. The pen touched paper, her hand shook. The letters wobbled. Ink smeared into a cool blue line across her fingertip, a stain that felt like it wouldn't wash off. Sophia slid each page closer, tapping quickly at the signature lines. David sat across from her, drumming a nervous rhythm on the table's edge. She signed a few more spots and sagged back, drained. Good, Sophia said, gathering the signed pages and clipping them together. The doorbell rang. Sophia hurried to open it. A middle-aged man in a dark shirt with a leather briefcase introduced himself. Notary public, here to witness the signatures. He took the head of the table. Sophia pushed the papers toward her again. Mom, finish here. He watched and nodded. I confirm the signatures were made in my presence. He flipped to the last page, pulled out his stamp and pressed it down. A sharp thunk echoed. The woman tilted her head and caught a faded registration number on the seal. Something in her accountant's memory twitched, seen that number on last year's list of expired notary commissions. Excuse me, she began, but Sophia cut in, brisk. Please stamp here as well and take the file. The notary finished the paperwork, slid everything into his briefcase, offered a perfunctory goodbye, and left. She stared at the ink on her fingertip, feeling the cold climb her arm. The room was quiet enough to hear the HVAC hum. Sophia closed the door and lowered her voice. Paperwork's done. Get some rest, Mom. David folded his arms and still wouldn't meet her eyes. That night she lay on her side, ear tuned to the dark hallway. Whispers slipped under the door, stitching themselves between the clock's ticks. Sophia's voice was clear. The beneficiary changes are in. We updated the death designation accounts too. The money will land in my account in a few weeks. David answered, ragged words catching. I'm drowning in debt. Collectors keep calling. I don't have a way out. Sophia's reply was hard. This is the way out. Don't go soft. She's exhausted. Once she's signed, she won't remember the details. We just wait. David muttered. I know. It's just, she's my mother. Debt doesn't wait, Sophia said, even lower. Choose. Let it pull us under, or get everything squared away before it's too late. In the bedroom, the woman gripped the blanket edge to stop the tremor. Each word they spoke dropped like a stone, cold rings spreading across her chest. She remembered signing the mortgage for this house with her husband, both of them laughing like kids. Today was signing too, but the little boxes didn't hold promises, they were traps. Her eyes fell to the ballpoint pen from that afternoon. The black stain still blotted her fingertip, a reminder she'd handed her power away. Wind slid under the eaves. A hinge creaked. In the deepening dark, her heartbeat stumbled half a beat. She bit her lip to keep from crying out. Everything was itemized now like a ledger. The file, the signatures, the stamp, the notary, the briefcase, carrying it all out of her hands. Then Sophia's voice again at the end of the hall, dry as paper. A few weeks, that's all. She shut her eyes and pictured that day a few weeks from now. A black space opened and swallowed the image of the son who once promised to take care of her. She rubbed at the stain, but the ink wouldn't lift. It wasn't just ink. It was the mark of a sentence she had unknowingly signed. The next morning, thin sunlight angled through the curtains. She sat in the living room, hands folded on her lap, hesitated, then dialed Emily. Her daughter's voice came through the speaker clear, a little hurried. Mom, I'm in a meeting. Is it urgent? Emily. Something's not right. Sophia's having me sign a lot of forms. She says it's insurance, but I'm seeing power of attorney and estate all over them. I don't feel safe. There was a pause, then a sigh. Maybe you're misremembering, Mom. Sophia's been taking good care of you. We're all pitching entry not to overthink this. Her chest tightened. Even you don't believe me? Her voice shook. Emily hesitated, then wrapped up quickly. Try to rest, okay? I'll call you this afternoon. The line went dead. She sat motionless, the silence of the room swallowing her whole. Around noon, Emily was at her small office desk when a new email popped up in her secondary inbox. Alert. Large wire transfer from primary account. Her heart kicked. It was the bank's notification for big transactions on her mother's accounts. Emily still had access during the last hospital stay. Her mom had asked her to help monitor things. She clicked the link, used the password saved in her manager, and the ledger loaded. A large transfer out of her mother's savings, sent to an account ending in 4827. A chill spread through her. Those 4 digits weren't new. A few days earlier, while grabbing clothes from her mom's place, she'd heard Sophia on the phone in the hallway, calm, decisive. .4827, yes, send it all to this account. She hadn't thought twice then. Now the match left her numb. She leaned back, pressed a hand to her forehead. Mom's right. I've been leaving her alone in this. The thought sat on her chest like a weight. That afternoon, Emily stopped by the house. Sophia opened the door with a thin smile. Oh, you're here. Mom's in the living room. Her tone was neutral, but her eyes skimmed Emily as if taking measure. Emily stepped in. Her mother was hunched on the couch, eyes wet. My girl's here, she whispered, voice trembling but relieved. Emily squeezed her hand, ready to reassure her, when Sophia's voice cut in from just behind. Mom's been forgetful lately. She's probably overthinking again. Her mother's head dropped. Her hands trembled. Emily faltered, unsure how to respond. After dinner, Emily stepped into the hallway to grab her coat. From the kitchen came Sophia's low, urgent voice. Beneficiary. It has to be changed this week. Emily froze, heart hammering. She bit her lip and listened, but the rush of the faucet and the clatter of dishes drowned out the rest. She turned back and caught her mother watching her from the living room, fearful, but with a small, stubborn spark of hope. Emily drew a breath. Her mother's words from that morning echoed. Even you don't believe me. Now the pieces began to line up. The strange forms, the wire alert, the 4 digits, and the word beneficiary Sophia had just said. Heat flushed her face. Maybe her mother wasn't confused at all. Maybe this was a trap. She gripped her bag strap and went still. Inside, a whisper surfaced, meant for no one but herself. If Mom's right. I've made a terrible mistake. Her shadow pulled long across the hallway wall, a question mark hanging in place for what would come next. Night settled, streetlight streaks drifting across the walls. After Emily left with that tight look on her face, she stayed in the living room, pulling a thin blanket around her shoulders and waiting for footsteps she knew by heart. The side door was ajar. David slipped in, a draft of night air following him. "David," she called softly, "sit and tell me one honest thing." He stopped. The glow from his phone lit the circles under his eyes. She reached out, voice trembling but clear. "If Sophia's doing something wrong, you have to stop. You still love your mother, don't you?" His jaw twitched. He said nothing. She lowered her voice. "Those papers aren't insurance. You know exactly what I mean." He drew a long breath, set his phone face down on the table with a small click. "Mom, this has already gone too far," he said slowly, weighing each word. "I'm choosing the fast way. Dragging it out only makes things worse." She shook her head, clutching his sleeve. "The fast way is making me sign when I'm exhausted? Changing the beneficiary behind my back?" He pulled her hand off, a sharp final motion. "I'm not arguing. You should rest." The phone buzzed. A red banner flashed, "Final notice." She caught it, her heart dropping. David killed the alert, his eyes going cold. "I know exactly what I'm doing," he said, no longer dodging. "Don't try to pull me back to your side. I've made my choice." She stood stunned, the wall clock ticking a hard, dry beat. The silence between them thickened like brick. "David, don't let numbers turn you into someone else," she managed. The words fell to the floor, never reaching him. The space between them seemed to tighten as Sophia appeared in the kitchen doorway, brushing a hand along the cabinet edge, her voice calm to the point of cold. "Are we done?" "It's late." The woman turned, eyes rimmed red. "You're dragging my son into something vile." Sophia's mouth tipped. "No one drags anyone. We all choose our lane." The woman took half a step, blocking David's view. "Listen to me. Stop this now. Tomorrow you and I will talk to an attorney and void every document." David glanced past her toward Sophia, as if waiting for a nod. Sophia didn't nod. She kept her tone even. "There's nothing to void. The papers are signed. The process is in motion. Delay is shooting yourself in the foot." The woman's voice snagged. "What kind of process gets hidden under a glass of milk? Where is your conscience?" David cut in flat. "Don't wave conscience at me. I don't have time for abstractions." She searched his face for a flicker of doubt. There wasn't any, just stone. "You're my blood," she said hoarsely. "And you," David answered, "are an obstacle to clear." The room seemed to lose air. Sophia folded her arms and leaned on the jamb, her voice metallic. "Enough. Go to bed. Big day tomorrow." David stepped around his mother without meeting her eyes. He paused for a heartbeat by the back of her chair, then kept walking into the dark hallway. "David," she called, her voice cracking. "Come back. There's another way." He stopped for exactly one beat, his shadow slanting across the tile, and said without turning, "Your other way is a cliff for me." The bedroom door clicked shut, clean, final, like a period punched straight into her ear. Sophia's silhouette slipped after him. She shot the woman a brief, cool look. "Get some sleep, Mom. You're tired and talking nonsense." Then the lock turned from the inside. The house fell into a heavy stillness. She stood alone in the wide, dim room, hands still lifted toward the sealed hallway, as if reaching for a shoulder that had already turned to smoke. That door latch click seemed to hold the whole house. She stayed in the living room, her hand still hanging in the air before it fell to her sides, heavy as stone. A thin draft slid through the window frame and teased the edge of the shawl on her shoulders. "David," she whispered, but the sound died in her throat. Only the HVAC hummed and the clock hands ticked, stamping an ending. Her knees went soft. She grabbed for the chair back and missed, sinking onto the rug, breath short, chest clamped tight. The door stayed mute. In the thick silence, the lock's little click echoed again, then again, like a mallet tapping home a bolt in her heart. She reached for the end table and touched the photo from David's graduation, mother and son shoulder to shoulder under a glass blue June sky. She remembered his small hand once gripping hers and the bell-clear promise, "I'll take care of you for the rest of my life." The warmth of that afternoon rushed back, then blinked out, leaving the room yellowed by lamplight. She pulled the blanket higher and leaned into the chair, eyes fixed on the dark strip of hallway. On the other side of the door, every sound was swallowed. She pressed the frame to her chest, listening for anything still alive inside her. Only the hollowed, slow beat of her own heart. Her lips moved barely more than breath, as if speaking to herself. "I've lost my son." The quiet of the morning living room had given way to pools of warm lamplight, a damp draft from the window lending the house a faint, musty smell. Emily set a water glass on the table and flicked a glance toward the bookcase, where a tiny camera peeked out. Its red LED pulsed softly, like her own heartbeat. Mom sat in her chair, hands a little unsteady but eyes tracking her daughter-in-law's every move. Sophia came in carrying a neat stack of papers in a hard plastic folder. Her face was blank, her tone clipped. "Mom, do you have a pen ready? This is the packet we need to finish. If you sign everything, the attorney can process it tomorrow." Emily, seated right beside her, felt her pulse kick. The camera and the paperwork were only a few steps apart. Sophia set the stack on the table and accidentally tugged the table runner askew, exposing a corner of the lens. The red light kept blinking. One more tilt and she'd spot it. Emily jumped up and jostled the glass. Water spread across the tabletop and splashed onto Sophia's sleeve. "You're so clumsy," Sophia snapped, dropping the file and hurrying off for a towel. Emily played flustered, mumbling, "Sorry, let me wipe it up," while the camera survived by sheer luck, its light blinking as if holding its breath with them. A minute later Sophia returned, dried the table, squared the pages, and shot a razor glance at Mom. "Sign, please. No more stalling. I've been waiting on you all week." Mom braced a hand on the armrest and gave a little cough. What are these exactly?" Sophia's answer was rigid, the impatience audible. "Don't pretend you don't know. I've explained it. Insurance, assets, the authorization forms. You just need to sign. I'll handle the rest." Mom tilted her head slow. "I'm not sure. The print is so small and my eyes aren't good." Sophia planted a hand on her hip, breath quickening, then jabbed a finger at the blank line. "Sign here. And here. Don't make me lose any more time. Tomorrow's the deadline." The word "Mom" in her mouth sounded like an order, clean and sharp as a blade. Emily sat taut as a wire. The camera caught every Mom sign piling up one after another. Mom tried to steady her voice. "What if I sign the wrong thing?" "You won't," Sophia bit out. "I've prepared everything. You just sign. Otherwise don't blame me." Her eyes went dark, like a door locking from the other side. Mom's hand shook. The pen skidded and left a smear of ink. Sophia snatched the page, flipped to the next. "Here too, Mom. We're done when you're done." The scratch of the nib on paper sounded harsh in the quiet room. Each signature felt like another cut across Mom's heart. At the same time, every sharp syllable from Sophia was being recorded exactly as it fell. In seconds that word "Mom" stopped sounding affectionate and turned into evidence, a marker of pressure and control. Mom looked up at her. The tight mouth, the rushed hands, the thin patience etched in as clearly as a confession performed in daylight. Emily swallowed, whispering a prayer that never made it to sound. Please don't let her see it. Sophia gathered the papers, slammed the folder shut, and lowered her voice without softening it. "Done. I'll file it tomorrow. You don't need to worry about a thing." She turned and walked out, leaving the air so still it felt airless. Mom sagged back, vision blurring, palms damp. In the shadows, the camera's red light kept blinking, quiet, steady, a silent witness that had just survived by an inch. When Sophia left the room, Emily eased the door shut from the inside and went straight to the tissue box. She paused, took a breath, slid off the bottom panel, and pulled out the micro SD card. "Mom, keep this one," she said, handing over a second card she'd already cloned. "I'll copy another to a USB." The laptop came to life, the system clock stamped the time. She named the file Room. Made 2 copies, one to a USB drive, one to the cloud. She tore off painter's tape, sealed the USB in 2 layers, and signed across the seam, jotting the time. 21:47. Chain of custody. I have to do this right. Emily whispered. Next, she logged into her mother's bank. Mom nodded consent, downloaded the current statement, and printed the page showing a wire to an account ending 4827, clipped to the email alert reading alert. Large wire transfer. She checked the kitchen trash. There was a mailer from a mobile notary service with the shipping label still attached. Emily snapped a photo, zoomed in on the notary's name and commission number. We'll have the attorney verify the commission status, she noted in her pad. Finally, Emily opened MyChart, printed the lab result showing the low med level, and the appointment marked canceled. She collated everything into a hard folder and labeled it Evidencito not remove. Mom laid a hand on the file, a rare hard ring of resolve in her eyes. Keep going. As long as I'm alive, I can attest. Emily nodded, leaned in, and whispered as if even the walls might be listening. If we don't move fast, they'll drain it. On the laptop screen behind them, the newly saved file name blinked once more, a small point of light, just enough to open the door to the next fight. The courthouse clock struck 9. All rise, the clerk called. The benches rustled and went still again, leaving only the soft thud of case files on wood and the flat wash of fluorescent light over the room. Mom sat beside her attorney in a worn cardigan. Across the aisle, David and Sophia kept their eyes down while their lawyer straightened his tie like a man who'd rehearsed every move. The judge stepped up, set a folder on the bench, and scanned the room. This hearing is now in session. Sophia's lawyer rose first, voice smooth but hard. Your Honor, what looks like financial fraud is in fact a case of declining memory. The medical record notes episodes of confusion. The daughter Emily has questioned her own mother. We have emails and texts that show this. We will show the documents were executed with consent, and that the financial changes were lawful. He turned toward Mom with a dry smile. Do you remember everything you signed? She laced her fingers tight. I remember enough to know I was pressured. But do you remember specific dates? He pressed. She looked down, lips tight. Her lawyer touched her wrist, a quiet reminder not to rush. The defense pivoted, calling Emily to the stand. A printed email flashed on the screen. One she'd sent to a friend last week. Full of hesitation, Mom called about something hard to believe. Maybe she's fixating because of the illness. Sophia's lawyer drilled in, voice like a pin. You thought she was making it up, didn't you? Emily bit her lip. At the time, I hadn't seen proof. And now you suddenly believe because of a family dispute? He pushed. Emily lowered her head, fingers clenched on the witness rail. He turned back to the bench for the tag. Even the daughter doubted her. The plaintiff's testimony lacks credibility. A faint murmur moved through the gallery. The back of Mom's neck went cold. The judge kept writing, expression unreadable, eyes never leaving the file, like the scales had just tipped a shade. Exactly the way the defense wanted. Sophia's attorney shifted gears and pulled out a motion. Your Honor, we move to exclude the plaintiff's audio video. It was secretly recorded, invades privacy, lacks a proper chain of custody, and could have been altered. He glanced over. And the device was placed inside the defendant's home. She had no right to record there. Plaintiff's counsel stood, voice steady. Your Honor, our state recognizes one-party consent for audio. The plaintiff resides in her own room and consented to recording in her personal living area for the purpose of protecting herself from elder abuse. As for chain of custody, the device was removed. The card was cloned to 2 copies with system timestamps, then sealed and signed with date and time. 1 copy transmitted directly to counsel's secure storage, 1 retained in a lockbox. We have an activity log. He opened a folder, producing the backup log with times and a photo of the sealed USB. Emily's signature crossing the tape. Defense arched a brow. It's still self-collected and potentially staged. It can't be staged in context, plaintiff's counsel replied. During the same window, the bank issued an email alert for a large wire. The hospital lab results show drug levels inconsistent with the prescription, and there's a mobile notary receipt whose commission was expired. These pieces line up in time. The judge looked up, skimmed the exhibits. Defense. Sophia's lawyer shrugged. First, one-party consent covers audio, not video. Second, even then, there's an expectation of privacy in the defendant's home. Third, the self-reported chain of custody isn't objective. We ask that the video be excluded, at least the visual portion. The judge frowned. The court will consider excluding the video in whole or in part. For now, I'm deferring playback until I've heard additional witnesses. The words landed like a bucket of cold water. Mom looked at her daughter. Emily pressed her lips thin, color draining from her face. Plaintiff's lawyer leaned in and whispered, "We're not done." Next round. Plaintiff called the treating physician. He opened the chart. She has early-stage cancer, but as to capacity, I administered the MMSE and MoCA. Her scores are within normal range with no signs of dementia. The confusion note in the record refers to a transient episode related to pain and sleep deprivation during an acute flare. It did not persist and did not impair decision-making at the times in question. Defense cut in. "Doctor, you weren't present when the documents were signed." "Correct," he said. "But I documented that she understood her treatment and asked appropriate questions. I'm also the one who flagged medication levels inconsistent with the prescription, suggesting substitution with a supplement, which indicates a problem with the care she was receiving." The judge nodded and wrote. Plaintiff then called the APS investigator. He opened his report. "We received an elder financial abuse report on date. I conducted an unannounced visit and found the plaintiff left alone for extended periods. A hired caregiver admitted she was not allowed to take her to appointments often. Financially, in coordination with the bank, we confirmed a large wire to an account ending 4827, beneficiary Sophia. There were TOD/POD beneficiary changes in the same time frame." Sophia's lawyer rapped a pen. "Hearsay." The investigator stayed even. "This is an official report, with bank documentation attached." Plaintiff's counsel raised another folder. On the notary, "We have confirmation from the Secretary of State's office that the notary's commission expired last year. The seal used on the signing date was invalid." The judge looked up. Defense. Sophia's attorney gave a cool smile. "Even if the notary was sloppy, a will can still be valid with witnesses." Plaintiff's counsel, "Where are the witnesses?" He glanced at David and Sophia. Silence. "And a POA shoved under a glass of milk is not voluntary consent." A soft ripple ran through the gallery and died out. The judge turned to the plaintiff. "Do you wish to say anything before the court rules on the admissibility of the video?" Defense popped up. "Objection, sit down." The judge cut him off. She rose slowly, gripping the chair back as if holding a piece of the past. "I don't want my son to go to prison. I just want the truth." She looked at David. He avoided her eyes, hands clenched white. She went on level and quiet. "I am not losing my mind. I have only lost a son." The room seemed to empty of air. David blinked. His lips parted, then closed. Sophia sliced him a look. "Don't say a word." The judge rested his pen, studied the file for a moment, then looked up. "The court admits the audio under one-party consent. As to video, considering it was recorded in the plaintiff's private living area with her consent, for purposes of protection against alleged abuse, and given that the chain of custody is documented and the recording is corroborated by objective materials, bank records, APS report, notary confirmation, the court will permit playback of the portion directly depicting coercive signing, limited to the time frame and angle showing the table, documents, and the parties' interaction. The remainder is reserved." Defense rose. "Your Honor." "That's the ruling." Gavel. The screen flickered on. The image was a little shaky, shot from a low angle. Sophia's finger stabbing at the blank line. "Mom, sign here. And here. Don't make me lose any more time." Her voice dropped but stayed sharp. "If you don't sign, the beneficiary change won't go through in time." You could hear her quickened breathing and the scratch of the pen on paper. Then the mother's wavering voice. "What if I sign the wrong thing, honey?" A curt reply. "There is no mistake. Sign." At the edge of the frame, David stood off to the side, silent, eyes down, hands in his pockets, saying nothing. When the clip ended, the courtroom went dead quiet. Sophia's attorney froze for a beat, then stammered, "That's just we." The judge lifted a hand. "Enough." He turned to the mother. "Anything further?" She shook her head. Emily spoke softly. "Your Honor, I doubted my own mother. I'm here to say I was wrong. Without that recording, maybe no one would have believed her." The judge gave a small nod. as if acknowledging something beyond the law, that truth sometimes needs a witness. He set his pen down. The court issues the following temporary orders: freeze the related accounts, suspend the POA and disputed will pending final adjudication, direct the bank to reverse transfers upon sufficient showing, and refer the notary file to the appropriate state authority. As to the elder abuse allegation, the court refers the matter to the prosecutor. He looked directly at David and Sophia. You have the right to remain silent. The court has seen enough to protect the vulnerable while we wait. The gavel fell again. Whispers rose in the gallery. Chairs scraped, shoes scuffed the floor. The mother sat, eyes wet but her mouth steady. Emily placed a hand over hers and squeezed. Across the aisle David didn't move, shoulders locked like stone. Sophia leaned in and murmured something to him. He didn't answer. The mother looked at him one last time, no scolding. No plea, just a farewell from the far bank of a bridge whose planks had been pulled up. In that moment the space between truth and blood opened wide enough to chill the room. And that distance, along with the crack of the gavel, sealed Act 3, leading into a final act about a will written not only in ink but in the cost of a broken bond. The room filled with small, tight breaths. The judge flipped to the last page and read in an even, firm tone. The court finds the durable power of attorney and the will void for duress and fraud. All assets are to be restored to the plaintiff. Defendant Sophia is adjudicated guilty of fraud, forgery, and elder abuse under the related criminal jury verdict. Restitution and a protective order will issue. He turned to David. Defendant David engaged in collusion and unjust enrichment. Under state inheritance law, a person who abuses or exerts undue influence is disqualified from inheriting. The court orders David removed from all beneficiary and fiduciary roles. A hard gavel strike. The gallery murmured. A court officer stepped forward and cuffed Sophia. She turned her head, eyes sparking, still trying to hold a thin smile. David stood hollowed out. As the mother passed him, he whispered, "Mom." Sophia snapped her head around and hissed through her teeth, "Shut up." The line cut the air clean, leaving David stranded on the cold wood floor. The mother said nothing, only looked at her son for a long time. No blame, no comfort. Just a look held exactly at the moment both understood that a door between them had closed the night before. A few weeks later, in the small apartment she'd just rented, she opened the metal mailbox and pulled out a thin envelope stamped with the county jail's return address. David's slanted handwriting ran across the front. Inside was a sheet of lined paper, the edge torn, the first lines neat and the last ones shakier. "Mom, I don't know where to start. I thought if I moved everything fast I could get free. I told myself a few signatures and life would go quiet. I was wrong. I pushed you to the bottom to haul myself up." The pen went silent for half a line, then picked up. "I know I've forfeited the right to be called a good son. If you can, please don't hold it against my kids. They're innocent." At the bottom the last words were blurred, a long smear of ink. "I'm sorry." She sat by the window for a long time with the letter on her knees. A late-day breeze tugged at the old curtain and carried in a faint green smell from the backyard. She folded the letter in quarters and tucked it into a small wooden box of old photos, the place where she kept what could still be saved from the past. Saturday afternoon. The neighborhood park through glittering sun through young maples. Emily brought the grandchild, a bag of cookies in one hand and the child's warm little palm in the other. "Grandma!" the child squealed, diving into her lap, hair smelling like sunshine. She smiled thin as a stitch, mending a crack in her chest. They settled on a wooden bench. Emily poured milk. The child clumsily broke cookies, crumbs ticking onto her skirt. "Easy, sweetheart," she said, her voice soft as grass. Far off, a cluster of kids played soccer, their shouts bright and high. She watched them and, without meaning to, saw David as a boy, circling the field, heels kicking up golden dust. The memory pricked, then eased. Emily pressed a new photo into her hand. Her and the child, cheeks touching. "Let's put this on the fridge," Emily said, smiling. She nodded. The sun tilted and stretched their shadows long. The child counted the birds lined up on the fence. 1, 2, 3, 4. She heard the counting like an old song, steady, clear, untouched by the world's grit. She set her palm lightly on the child's fine hair, warmth running from her fingertips into her heart, filling a hollow that hadn't yet closed. Inside her, the words arranged themselves, as if they already knew the way. My memory may blur, but my love for my grandchild never will. She didn't say it out loud, only whispered enough for herself to hear. A squirrel shot past and the child's laugh rang out bright and glassy, like sunlight shattering. She lifted her eyes to the pale blue sky, her lashes wet. Somewhere very close, the sound of children laughing rose and spread, laying a bright layer over the last dark corners of the old house in her mind. The picture holds on that laughter for a beat, then slowly fades out,